Hi, everyone. This is Dorothy Taylor with Solar Chiron.
Hi, and I'm Emmaleen Muldoon, and I'm with Big Three Astrology.
And we are going to discuss Venus in Leo today. We're going to discuss when it came into Leo and the retrograde that's going to take place there this year by house.
Yeah, so if you're wondering how this Venus retrograde is going to affect you, then we'll go through each part of the chart and let you know how you can work with this energy. Now, Venus in Leo is a really interesting one because Leo is a heart energy, and Venus is the planet that we connect to love, relationships, also money and things that we find beautiful. So there is sort of a connection and overlap here between what we love, how we like to express our love. And in some way, when we have the retrograde, what we're doing is we are reviewing and revising those themes and ideas. So there is going to be sort of an overarching theme here of revising and looking at what it is that is important to us, what it is that we are excited about, what it is that we like, what it is that we love. So we're going to look at the context of your chart and look at the houses and see which part of your life you might be doing that within. But there is going to be some type of review here with the retrograde.
I actually kind of enjoy Venus retrogrades.
You do?
It is about deciding what you value, and those change a little bit over time, or something new comes into your life and you have to decide what value it holds for you, or someone comes into your life, or there's just something not going quite right, and to be able to have an opportunity to reevaluate those things is always a good practice. You should never think anything is set in stone. And with it in Leo, it's going to be especially interesting because Leo is about appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
It's about imagination. It's about creativity. So all of those things are going to come into play. How do you value your creativity? How do you value the things that pique your imagination? How do you value what you have to give? So this will be interesting.
Yes. And there is also sometimes there can be a little bit of ego related to Leo, because, you know, there is the feeling of being comfortable in the limelight, or being comfortable with creating and taking a lead in that sense. So sometimes we might be reviewing what maybe where our ego is in some way as well, maybe a little bit of an ego check in some sense. So, you know, what do I love? What do I think of this? And how does that apply to me in some way?
Yeah, Leo does have a bit of that drama queen quality to it. So watch out for those things. And while Venus is in Leo, Mars is also there for part of the time. So definitely watch out for that drama queen thing.
Yeah, diva.
Whether you're a male or female, I know they call it drama queen, but male or female, watch out for drama. So we're going to start discussing this by house.
Mm-hmm.
And before we do that, let's give them the dates. So Venus goes into Leo. It's already into Leo. It came into Leo on the 5th. On the 19th is when it enters pre-shadow. Yeah. Correct me if I get any of these dates wrong, Emily. It enters pre-shadow, which means that it's starting to cover the ground that it's going to go back over when it goes retrograde. Mm-hmm. It goes retrograde on July 22nd.
Yeah.
And then it'll go back to that 12th degree, 12 degrees of Leo. And then it will cover that ground in Leo again up to this 2836. And we'll finally exit post shadow. We said September 3rd.
It finishes retrograde on September 3rd, yeah. And then it moves out of Leo and post shadow around the October 7th. And then
So,
out of Leo October 8th.
so this is a long period.
Yes.
And you will feel it. And when you have something like, for instance, in this first chart, William the Fourth has Venus right here on his sun, 2836, 2813. So Venus is turning retrograde on his sun. So that's significant. So when you guys look at your charts, notice if Venus is touching anything, and know that if it's anywhere between 12 and 28, it's going to touch it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can look around the chart and see what else it has a relationship to.
And also sometimes, because I get this question when we do these videos, sometimes it is going to maybe go through 2 houses. So it might start off in the 12th and then cross over into the 1st, or, you know, in other houses as well. So it might be that it's 2 stories coming up in some way.
Yeah. So what we've done with these charts is we've set them up to be equal houses, equal signs. So if you'll notice, it starts at 0, 0, and the second house starts at 0, 0 Virgo. So I've set this up to be equal all the way around. Mm-hmm. Starting at the 0, 0 mark of whatever ascendant we're talking about. And so this one probably was over 2 houses in the original chart. But since it's now, and the houses and the signs are different, in a natal chart, signs are always 30 degrees. In a natal chart, houses can be any size. So they can be 30, they can be 45, they can be 52, they can be anything. You can have a sign completely encompassed, so it can be over 60 degrees wide. So we've simplified the charts by making them all equal houses. Now, how do you find the ascendant, Emily?
Yeah, you're pointing to it right now. If you look at it, if you think of it as a clock, it's 9 a.m. So if you look to that point of your chart, that will be the ascendant.
And this is determined by the time of day you were born.
Yeah.
So that's kind of pointing to the moment you were born. Mm-hmm. And for King William, he was a Leo. That's often, if you think about it, Leo represents the king, queen, or court gesture. So that's very regal. It's very, very comfortable in the limelight.
Yeah. The current king has a Leo rising chart as well.
Yeah. So there you go.
King Charles.
So it's funny to say king. You had a queen so long.
I know, it's still weird for me.
Okay, so this being the first house, we have Venus in the first house, and you know, we were talking about the ascendant. Leo as the ascendant means that with this Leo, Venus retrograde, there's going to be a lot of attention on how you present yourself, how you introduce yourself, how you define who you are for others, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of what people think of you when they first meet you. Venus is a lovely planet to have in the first house. It attracts all kinds of admirers, which Leo, of course, will love. It has you thinking about what you want to, what value you have, what your value system is. So Leo in the first house is lovely. And wherever Venus is, people are going to be attracted to that part of your life. And so it being in the first house, people are going to notice you, and they're going to feel like you're this soft, receptive feeling. This maybe not while Mars is there too, but eventually you're going to be there you're going to have Venus for a long time by itself, and you're going to have a lot of admirers.
Like bees to honey.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's also the sense of it highlighting how you love yourself, how you accept yourself, what is my self-worth, how do I express my self, what's my confidence, I think in some ways as well, because it's, you know, Leo, it's thinking about that confidence, that ego, and it's expressing it onto you. But really revising, this is a time to think about, well, what do I love? Maybe there is a change in what I love. Maybe it's a change in how I want to express myself or show myself, present myself to the world. Maybe I would say, you know, change in appearance, but not a good time to be, we should have said that in the beginning, during a Venus retrograde, not a good time to be making enhancements to your appearance, like cosmetic surgery or changing your haircut and so forth, because it doesn't usually give you the result that you want when the planet of beauty is moving backwards, you know.
But that might, if you're thinking about that, that might be a good time to investigate your value system and your self-esteem, that kind of thing. Because most people doing that will raise their self-esteem. And maybe not. You're the only one that can make that call, but not during a Venus retrograde. Just wait until after. So we're going to try to keep these short and sweet because videos can get very long. So we're going to go on to the next house, the second house.
Yeah.
So remember we said Venus was about value systems. The second house is in tune with that, self-respect, self-confidence, all of these things. And so you're going to be thinking about what it is you personally value, what it is you want to ground into the world. Although it's Leo, the house is still a fixed house. They call it a cadence house, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so the house still wants to ground things, but Leo, being the warm fire sign that it is, wants to also have control, power and control in that situation, use their creativity to kind of look at what their resources and have their resources. And maybe what Leo tends to think it's special in some way. And of course, you know, the two charts that we've had, the King and Dalai Lama, they were special, right? And they were both, they both garnered a lot of attention, personal attention.
Yeah.
And this is a Venus return. That's what we call that. When Venus touches on Venus in the natal chart, it's a Venus return. Oh, we forgot to say that too. The inside of this chart is fake or presented for your education chart. So the inside is the natal chart. The outside only has that one planet, so we can concentrate on that one planet, not all the alignments it's making. But here it is hitting directly his Venus, and that is called a Venus return.
Yeah, I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think the second house is going to be an interesting one if you have a Venus retrograde there, because you know, it's the house of your income and your finances, but also it's the planet that represents money as well. So it might be that you're trying to figure out a way to earn some money in a way that you want to earn it. Maybe you've been looking at, you know, I'm not satisfied in some way with the career, that the income path that I have, and I want to revise it to do something where I love. Or it's maybe a good time to think about, oh, I want to be creative and bring in money that way. Maybe you'll be looking at ways to do that over this summer as well. So it's interesting how there is that connection there.
The other item is that Venus actually rules the second house in traditional astrology. So she's comfortable in the second house. But since it's retrograde and this is the money house, there may be money that you thought wasn't coming that does come. Or you look back at, you know, if you own a business, look back through your old invoices. Maybe somebody didn't pay that should have paid, or maybe you've kind of been in this battle with someone about getting your due, right? Shoring up your resources. So think about that too. There could be either an old relationship or some sort of financial gain that is going to come from something you did in the past. A lot of old friends could show up about now when we talked about the admirers.
Yep, it's true.
Okay, third house. There's a lot of direct hits with this in these charts.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. Yeah, so the third house is how we communicate, how we learn. It's primary education, elementary school. So if this is your, if your child has it going through the third house, it might be that they're doing some reflection on their education in some way over this summer. So, what do you want? Maybe there's something you want to learn. Maybe you want to learn how to be creative. Maybe you've been itching to take a course to learn how to crochet, for example, and it's like, oh, now is the time where I'm going to put the effort into having the confidence and maybe the strength to go and pursue that course or that education path in some way.
And Venus can boost your self-confidence. The other thing that came to mind here is Leo's a little arrogant, right? And so maybe you've not been aware of how you come across to other people, and Venus is to give you the opportunity to review how you speak, how you present yourself to others, but also make you more aware of how you are in your local environment, how you're perceived.
And possibly with your siblings as well. Maybe there's relationship work with siblings there that's happening over the summer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and into the fall.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. So you ready for the fourth house?
Yeah. This is an interesting one, the fourth house. I think with Venus going there, I think it's making the house nicer in some way. You want to make it more, maybe it's maybe there's like a room in the house that's been overrun with the kids. That's an example that comes to my mind because I've got children, and you're like, you know what, I need that room. I want to make a dining room, I want to make an office, I want to make a sitting room, or changing it, making it something that you love, or a craft room so you could do your crafts at home or do something that you love, but making that, figuring out how to make your home environment more beautiful in some way,
and a place you enjoy being. So I know you guys like listening to these houses specific to you, but we give you little bits of information, not intentionally, but little bits of information from each house we discussed. And one of the things that that Venus is she's considered one of the benefic planets.
Yeah.
So wherever she is, there's going to be something positive that comes out of her path or what she does. And this extended retrograde is going to really have you hone in on something that's of value to you, or raise your self-esteem or self-confidence, provide you with something. So, maybe when you're here with Leo in the fourth house and Venus there, maybe take a look at your house and figure out how you can make it more comfortable, but also a little more glamorous. Leo likes glamour. Leo likes to be this attention. Maybe have a gathering over where you are presenting something, where you are showing a little bit of your flair. Leo has a lot of flair, a lot of charisma, a lot of warmth. So this would be a good time to have people over at your home, maybe multiple times.
Lots of entertaining barbecues if it's, in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
Hot chocolate in the southern hemisphere.
That would be fun.
Yeah. And also maybe making money from home, the finance. Maybe there's a way you're like, oh, I want to rent out. I'm not going to be here in the summer. I'm going to Airbnb my home. You might be something like that you're figuring out.
Ready for the fifth?
Yep.
Now, the fifth is about fun. Imagination, play, all of those things that we tend to think don't have much value, or we do our work and put them off until later.
Yeah.
But Leo also rules this house. So not Venus, but Leo, the sign Leo rules the fifth house. And in this particular chart, it's hitting Jupiter. So that's a double benefic planet there. So pay attention to your imagination, allow yourself to have fun, talking about the outdoor barbecues, that kind of thing. Allow yourself to have some fun. Try something you've never tried before. And then do it like 3 times. Yeah, really feel about it.
Have lots of romantic love affairs, maybe 3 of them.
Yes. Why not? If you're going to have romantic love affairs, have good ones. And the fifth house is definitely about play, but it also is about children. So you may be going back and forth with your kids about something. Maybe they're Leos and they're causing a little bit of drama. So it's possible. So just pay attention to the things you actually enjoy.
Yeah. And creative stuff as well. You know, think about maybe there is stuff that you like being creative with, but this is the house that's sort of figuring that out as well. When I say love affairs, I would say don't get upset about whether these affairs, you know, if you do have a fling, a summer romance, it's not the time necessarily for a commitment with Venus going retrograde. So don't get upset if you think this is not going to go anywhere. Maybe you meet someone on a vacation or something like that. You know, this is not a time for maybe like longevity and committing, but it might be a time just having fun with your relationships, people around you, meeting someone, and they might give you some confidence about you in some way as well, help you with your own confidence.
But it could also just be a friendship, but it's fun.
Yes.
You're enjoying the person that you're with. You're enjoying and expressing yourself. This is a house of self-expression where we get to be who we want to be. So maybe you do go somewhere and work for 3 months and you're able to be different there than you are anywhere else, but still it's not real life. It's not you and your home and your environment where you are normally probably stressed, but have fun. Wherever you are, have fun. And do remember it is a retrograde. Whatever happens during this retrograde, it's going to come up several times. So pay attention to it each time. And if you're married, I'm just using this as an example. If you're married and you have a fun love affair while you're away somewhere, it could come back and bite you. So just know.
It probably will.
It probably will. But I wasn't going to be judgmental like that. Yeah. But just know, this is also where we create children. So Venus and all the people attracted to you, pay attention to that. Unless you're ready for a child, pay attention, don't have one. And so kind of notice, because that's one of the ways it could come back and bite you. Yeah. You can even have a fun love affair with your husband, by the way. But that's one of the ways it can come back and bite you. You didn't want a baby, but now you're pregnant because you had all this fun. And that's okay. You can have fun. Just be aware. Okay, you ready? Yep. The 6th house.
Venus in the 6th. So we are
in Leo.
We're having the confidence to look at what we need to do with our routines. You know, I think about having the discipline to put yourself first in your daily routine in some way. You know how some people are very much able to say, I'm going to wake up in the morning at 5 and work out before I get the kids to school and stuff like that. It's putting yourself first in some way with a routine and being able to say, you know, I love myself enough to give myself that time instead of, you know how some people need to be accountable to get a job done? Well, maybe this is a time where you're actually reviewing, well, how do I fit what I want to do into my daily routine, into my habits in some way? Or how do I change, stop myself eating a certain food that I don't think is very good for me, and I want to introduce a healthier food? There's a way in which maybe you'll figure out how to do that, because you're giving yourself your self-worth and that strength to say, you know, I love myself enough to do this for me in some way.
Yep, the sixth house is about duties and obligations, health, well-being. And so all of those things fit, right? But you may just find that creating a discipline that, or a structure that works for you better in your daily life and your duties and obligations, like that, getting up at 5:30 and going and working out before you take the kids to school. Right? So thinking about the value in the time you spend, the value in the duties you adhere to, the obligations you have, thinking about what value those hold. And a lot of times we're going to find, like, getting up and taking these kids to school. That's a privilege that you only have during a specific time in your life. Those kids are going to grow up and go away. It's a duty, an obligation, but it's also a privilege, because not everybody gets to do that. So think about what you do and how you value it, or how you go about doing it, and seeing if you can make it a more fun experience for yourself. How can your day-to-day life be more enjoyable? And also, you could become a leader in your day-to-day work environment. I'm talking about outside the house. You could become a leader, people attracted to you, or people in your day-to-day environment telling you what they appreciate about you and the way you go about your duties and obligations.
Yeah, you could stand out in works in your job some way. Or maybe if you're looking for a job this summer, you might be, oh, I'm getting back to work. I haven't been working for a while. You know, it's maybe a time of you working out, having the confidence to do that, look for a job or find a new job.
Yeah, you know, people don't often think about, when you look for a job, it's real work. You've got to be persistent. And this sixth house is about persistence and perseverance. So it's a good idea to just know that you may have to do something several times, but in the end, whatever it is you're doing, think about how you can be creative with it. But it's going to pay off in the end. If you just put the effort in, it's going to pay off in the end. So you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Venus in the seventh house. A lovely placement.
Yeah, you're working out stuff with your closest relationships, you know, business, personal, or otherwise. But those close relationships, there's a lot of attention there. And you might be figuring out a way where things work better. You might be figuring out your finances. If you're married, this might be, you know, coming up with stuff that you want to change, stuff you want to work on. Maybe with your partner, you're looking at your money in some way, how you work with it together.
Or comparing your value systems.
Yeah.
So, and that can be a biggie in relationships. But also there's a certain amount of people attracted to you. You're attracted to others as well. Because Venus is in the seventh house of one-to-one relationships. There may be a relationship that does turn into something more, or turns into something less, while Venus is going back and forth in this house. But you're going to have a lot of interactions in one-to-one relationships. You might have a kid leaving for college, so your one-to-one relationship is changing. There's a lot of things that can be happening here, but the emphasis is on being creative in how you address this. Being warm, almost regal, and that will kind of, Venus will kind of help you to go about whatever this is with a certain amount of, let's say, dignity. Because Venus is very soft. Venus is very diplomatic. She's a good negotiator. Remember that in one-to-one relationships. Negotiator. And she rules the 7th house as well as the 2nd. So she's very, very comfortable here. Leo can be comfortable, but less so, because Leo is a fixed sign, and this house is mutable. I'm using the term for signs because I can't remember the other one for the house, but in a sense it's mutable, it's changeable. And no, sorry, it's cadent. So one that is, I've messed that all up. What do you call the cardinal? So the 7th house is a cardinal, which means an initiating house. And Leo is not an initiating sign. It's kind of a sign that wants things to stay the same. So you've got a self-starting sign and house, and a sign that wants to keep things the same. And with Venus is trying to help you smooth that over, whatever it is, whatever the change is. It's trying to help you. Imagine if you had a supportive friend when you had significant change coming in your life. Venus is that supportive friend. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
And remember to think use your heart energy here, and don't get too much in your ego if you're thinking about how you're relating with someone else. Don't let your ego get the boss of you and then like ruin something that doesn't need to be ruined, you know. And
that's kind of where I was going with the Venus and Leo. Venus is going to kind of smooth that egotistical drama part of this down. And but it's like a supportive friend. Let's go to the 8th house. Venus.
Lots of meanings here in the 8th house, as always. We have to, I feel like whenever I do the 8th house or to talk to a client about it, it's always, look, we need to go through everyone because we're going to figure out which one it is, which one's affecting you.
So Venus in the 8th house, Leo is a fixed sign. The 8th house has fixed energy. And so, you know, Leo there is kind of at least in a comfortable environment that way. Venus, probably not so much. Although she rules a fixed house, she's still kind of soft. She's negotiable. Now, this is where I feel like you would probably be discussing money with a partner.
Yes.
Shared resources. And shared resources is a big topic. And one partner may feel like they should have more of what the shared resources are, or they've been using more of the shared resources and that you feel like they need to cut back. Any of those things. The other thing is this is also the house of death, sex, and taxes. So any of those topics may come up, and you may fear you owe more taxes and find out you don't, or the other way around, right? So you owe $10 in taxes, or you owe $5. So just think about all the subjects that could come up around this. As far as death goes, the same thing. Somebody you need to seriously consider what could come up in here all the way around. And of course, sex will probably be good. Well, is in the 8th house. That's a shared resource usually.
But maybe you have to figure out the change before it gets to the good.
Yes. So, or both, you know, it could be you need to tell your partner something about the way that sex is happening in your life. And this is a good time to do it, because you can present it in a diplomatic way, or maybe your partner has something to tell you about the way you guys have sex and what would make it more enjoyable. But use your creative mind. You know, if somebody suggests something, hey, give it a try.
Be confident as well.
Yep. It will be confident in having the discussion.
Yeah.
It's not a relationship ending thing if you find out that your partner wants you to do something different than what you've been doing. Just as it wouldn't be a relationship anything, what would be awesome is if you could talk to your partner about it, and then you guys come to some sort of conclusion about whatever the topic is. So be cooperative, right? People are going to be more cooperative. So this is a good time to have those discussions. Ready?
Yeah. And also I was just thinking it might be a time where, you know, maybe you're moving in with someone or doing something like that, or you're sharing, or you've got a new roommate. That's you figuring out, how am I going to share the finances? Because from, you know, during the summer, maybe it's like your money is now having to be pooled with someone else to pay the bills, which is, you know, it's a good thing, but you're just figuring out how to do that fairly, maybe.
Yeah. And that goes along with the shared resources.
Yeah.
And who gets what.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a big drama. And I think that Venus in Leo is trying to show you it doesn't need to be a big drama. Just have the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Get
more of an understanding of what the other person needs, and negotiate on what you feel like you need. Now that's a good point to bring up. When you're going into any conversation, you do need to know what is a must have for it to work out well for you. And then this is what I could give up, right? So you need to have this idea that that there are certain things that are really needed for your happiness. Hello, Alistair. Really needed for your happiness. And then there's some things that you would like to have, but you don't have to have. That's all part of negotiation, and knowing what has to happen, what you must have, and what you can let go of. You ready for the 9th?
Yes.
There we go. The 9th house is about higher education, life philosophies, where we fit into the world, and long distance travel. So maybe you spend the summer doing foreign study.
Yeah, studying abroad would be lovely, wouldn't it, with this energy? But maybe you have to change a few things around in order to get to that trip, or in some way there might be a few things that you need to juggle your finances in some way to get there.
Or maybe you thought it wasn't going to happen and then it did. Yeah. And you know, you've got this change of mind. But the higher education, maybe you have to go back and review some previous study. Maybe there's a wonderful job offer and now you have to study that particular, because we all get kind of a general education. And if we're going into a specialty, we would have to bone up on what that was, that specialty. Consider that your worldview might change. And when I say worldview, it's about how you think the world works and your place in it. So we all have this idea of, and that's the other thing the 9th house is about, is ideas. We all have this idea of how the world works and where we fit into it. And with Venus going retrograde in the 9th house, that could very much change for the better. So give some thought, some creative thought to how you think you fit into your world.
You know, also your spiritual religious outlooks might change in some way. You might explore them find a new way of exploring them, find a new method of exploring them that you enjoy.
Yeah. Anything to do with having a broader perspective on the world. Okay, let's go to the 10th.
Oh, this is interesting one. The 10th house, very nice, isn't it? Your career, your reputation. You need to be bold and confident here, but don't let that ego get carried away, like we've been saying all the way through. But there's definitely a feeling here of, you know, having the confidence and self-worth to explore your career, your reputation in some way. And it might be because, you know, like we've been saying, like honeypot, bees to the honeypot here. There might be that you get some good fortune in your career in some way, or you're recognized in some way.
Yeah, either promotion, recognition, or a raise. So do be bold, take creative risks, but don't risk everything. Don't let that ego get so high that you think you deserve more than you do, but also if it's reasonable, be bold enough to ask or to push for it. Like we've been talking about too, with being attracted to, like Emmaleen said, bees to a honeypot. People are going to recognize you. People are going to show their appreciation. It may be in words, it may be in actual resources, it may be, you know, there's a million different ways that this can show up in the 10th house. Recognition in itself, if you felt like you have not been recognized, will be good. And this will be for the next 3, 4, 6 months.
Yep.
Because once Venus goes back to 12, which is what it's going to do, then it'll have to cover this ground again. So it may be a situation where you're promised a raise, but it doesn't come until later in the year.
Yeah, that's true. It could be because there was some revision that was going on.
Could be a bonus structure that needs to be worked out. So, you know, that recognition, if they say they're going to give you a raise, they're obviously recognizing your value.
Or maybe it's you. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe it's like you finally having some confidence to move forwards in a career where you are taking the spotlight or being creative in some way as well. You're like, you know what, I can figure out a way where I can do a side hustle where I sell this or I create this business in some way, and trying to work out having a career that I love.
Yeah, creating a career for yourself would be a good thing to do here, and give yourself time to work out the particulars.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, with Leo being the sign of creativity, it could very well be that if you are an artist, you become recognized for the imagination, the creativity that you've shown. And so if maybe, you know, try to have an art show. If you're a musician, get out there and play.
Yep.
Okay, Leo, Venus in Leo in the 11th house. This is also nice. I just love Venus retrograde for all that it brings to all of the houses. But in the 11th house, there's a lot of friends around to give you the opportunity to be admired, right? It draws people to you. However, your circle of friends, acquaintances, that's who's covered in this house, may change. And if we're talking about like this is also, again, a good time for recognition for your creativity, because it's opposite the house of creativity. So what you've created ends up out here with the wider world. And it could be a time when you are getting appreciated for what you create. But also looking for like-minded people, a place where you fit in. And that goes back to figuring out our values, our value, the value we hold, but also the value of our friendships. What do our friendships bring to us? what are we looking for in the wider world of acquaintances? Is there somebody that you particularly like, that you really haven't talked to or haven't had a warm discussion with, that turns into a one-to-one relationship, the 7th house? So there's a lot of looking at who is in your world, not your home environment, not your one-to-one relationships, but in your world of acquaintances, who is in that world. And you're going to feel very social with
social butterfly.
With Leo, Venus in Leo. Yep, a little social butterfly. And you can be
lots of, I was just going to say, you might find that you might have the confidence to start that class, like maybe it's like a group class, like dance group or salsa dancing, you know, something like that, where you're putting yourself in the spotlight, or being creative, an art group, and you find one that you can join and you can enjoy, and then at the same time you're building a new friendship circle,
or having that art show, where there's a lot of people appreciating what you've created. So there's some really good vibes that could come from Venus in the 11th house. And then, like we've talked about, it's going to be there till October 7th, 8th.
October 8th, it leaves Leo. Yeah.
So this is a huge plus. And a lot of people, because this is a house of the public, a lot of people are going to feel positively towards you. And it's a good time to be a leader with Leo, either in the 10th or the 11th house. So creating a class where you are doing the teaching and you're the one being creative about the subject matter, that would be an awesome way to spend this time too. Okay. Venus in the 12th.
Yes.
And retrograde, no doubt. With Venus in the 12th house, you may feel like withdrawing a little bit. And you may feel as if you need to spend some time mulling over all of these topics that we've talked about, including your own personal value, your own self-esteem. You may feel like you need to spend some time being special to yourself. The 12th house is kind of conceptually mimics the womb. So you're not out in the world, you're kind of just being. You don't have to, express yourself outwardly in any way from the 12th house. You do want to, though, consider your subconscious mind and how it is affecting the world around you, how you're interacting with others, your beliefs. My daughter and I were talking about unconscious bias yesterday. We're hearing a lot about that subject lately. But one of the things that she told me was that companies worldwide had done this unconscious bias campaign and tried to teach all of their managerial staff and that kind of thing what unconscious bias meant. And it was meant to help solve the problem. And it actually ended up making the problem worse, because people believed that if it was truly unconscious bias, then there was nothing they could do about it. And so they made different decisions. So they had to figure this out right after, when companies or rates of appreciating people for the work they did changed instead of. So that reminds me of the 12th house. This is stuff we think we can't do anything about. All of this stuff that happens in our subconscious mind, that we make decisions based on this stuff, right? So what you don't know can affect what you're doing. what you do know can affect what you're doing. But when we make decisions based on something that we learned when we were a child, or an experience we had when we were a child, and that, of course, created beliefs for us. And now we act on those beliefs, or we act on that subconscious fear or worry, and don't even realize we're doing it. The 12th house is the unconscious bias. So there is something we can do about it, though. We can bring it to awareness, and that can change the decisions we make. It may be something holding you back. And if it's holding you back, then it is definitely affecting your life. But it's not what others are doing. This is stuff that's about you. It could have come from a past life, a past experience, just a fear or a worry that you have in the back of your mind. And Venus is here to politely bring these things up. What makes you special? Leo is about being special. What makes you special? And maybe that's a talent or a gift or a creative expression that you need to bring forward. And when Venus leaves Leo on the October 8th and enters into Virgo here, that is going to come with you into the first house. So that's when you're going to start expressing it. But right now you have several months to think about all the things that are taking place subconsciously. And that may require that you withdraw a little bit. Spend some time alone.
Yeah, you might really like your own company, or not even that. Sometimes you're not even aware that you're doing it, because it is like the subconscious house, like you say. So you might feel that you're spending a lot of time reflecting or thinking, or maybe too much time. Maybe you're thinking, well, gosh, maybe I need to talk to someone because I'm spending so much time in my thoughts and I'm getting in my head here. But there's a lot of progress to be done, lots of rewards in that. So taking the confidence to address maybe some mental challenges as well, like having some, the self-worth to think, getting ready to value yourself for when Venus does cross over into that first house. It's almost like what you were saying, the preparation being in the womb, getting ready when it crosses over to the first. So there's a lot of reflection.
Venus in the 12th or 8th is a good time for therapy.
Yeah.
But going back to the theme of it's something I can't do anything about, it's definitely something you could do about. But I can see Venus in the 12th house being you're playing the victim. Drama. Yep. Venus, victim, the 12th house. You're no longer the victim. You're an adult now. Whatever happened when you were a child, you get to decide how you're going to handle that kind of thing. The choices you made then are not the choices you would make now, but they could be holding you back.
Yeah, right? coming to terms with some pain or some mental anguish would be a good way to look at this summer.
And letting go of it. Not bringing it forward with you so that you have to then compensate for that. We all have things in our subconscious mind that we compensate for in regular interactions. So this is a time to let go of some things, and Venus is going to help you do that, and in a kind of a polite way, a nice way. So therapy would be a good way of using this Venus energy, because remember I said that she was kind of support. So you're going to have some support with this Venus in the 12th house. You might have a confidant you can talk to. Secrets may come out because it is the 12th house, or over here in the 8th house. Although it is Leo, be confident in talking about the things that are bothering you. You ready? I think we're done.
We are, yeah. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can comment below. And I hope you all enjoy this summer. I've been calling it the summer of unlove. because it's just like, Venus is the planet of love and it's moving backwards in some way. So we're revising what we love. We're working it out, we're going over stuff. So take that time and enjoy the process.
And overall, it's a summer of fun.
Yeah.
With Venus in Leo. So, consider this a pleasant retrograde, even though we're going to be reviewing relationships and values and those sort of things. At least in Leo, it'll be fun. And I also hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next time.